Thank you. The National Coordinator.
Thank you. I believe I have a few questions, some of which have been answered already by the Honorable Minister of Health. So the first one has to do with the issue of Ramadan being a few days away, and what is the committee doing to ease the Ramadan period. We will be providing advice and guidance for the public. This will be published before the Ramadan period with regards to how they can, how the public can continue to protect themselves from this infection. It's really important that we continue to adapt to the times. This is a challenging period for all of us. We are not in normal situations. We can see what's happening in Saudi Arabia, for instance, where the Lesser Hajj itself has been cancelled. And Islam definitely talks about persons making adjustments in times of epidemics. This is well known to our ulama, and we are pleading with our religious leaders to please help us spread this message. We are in challenging times. This disease kills, as we can see in our TV and radio all the time. We would like to be around for the next Ramadan, and therefore we need to protect ourselves now. Government will continue to provide the palliatives that we have been discussing earlier on to ease the difficulties that we are currently in. But those restriction measures, particularly the issue of social distancing and mass gatherings and personal hygiene, respiratory hygiene, etc., they need to continue during the period of Ramadan. Let's try as much as we can to get through this difficult period so that we can continue, so that we can go back to our normal life and have future Ramadans, inshallah. The second has to do with the provision of, in terms of accommodating the disabled in isolation centers. Thank you for raising it. We will be inspecting some of the isolation centers later on today, and we have already taken this on board. Where there's a need to get people to help with sign language, as you can see here, we will make sure we accommodate that. Is it time to relax testing? Absolutely not. Remember, these test kits, A, they're expensive, B, every country in the world wants it. There's no room for massive community testing of coronavirus. I would rather do 100 tests and get 10 positive than do 1,000 tests and get 10 positive. It's all about improving the efficiency of the test. It's much better to test persons that have symptoms, because what we call the pre-test probability is much higher. When we talk about incubation periods, this is the period between when you get an infection and the time the symptoms happen. And the incubation period is the period when the virus multiplies deep in the body and it is not excreted. The way we do the test for coronavirus is a PCR test where you do a swab from the nose and the throat. If you are in the incubation period, you will not be excreting the virus. And the test is looking for the presence of the virus. Therefore, if you do the test during the incubation period, which may range from between 2-3 days to up to 14 days, the test will be negative. In other words, you could still be in an incubation period and it will give you false assurance that everything is all right. That is why we do not recommend doing the test in the absence of symptoms. The reason why in certain situations people might appear to be asymptomatic and still have a positive result, which is relatively rare, is because a lot of people might have mild symptoms of COVID that you will not even notice. You might have a mild sore throat when you wake up in the morning, you not even notice that you've forgotten it, or have a mild cough for a few hours in a day and it will not even bother you. Maybe already you have a cough like a smoker, etc. So in those instances you would think that you are asymptomatic, but in actual fact you do have mild symptoms. Respiratory viruses over time have evolved to induce coughing, sneezing, and runny nose, so that they can get out of the body. That's how they infect the next person. And that's why those symptoms are there. And that's why we need to do the test at the right time in order to pick up the virus. So the answer really is absolutely not. We're not going to start doing massive testing in the community. It will be inefficient, it will be expensive, and it's not going to help us increase the number of positives. Finally, the issue of home remedies, which the Honorable Minister of Health has kindly responded to already. But all I can say at this point is making claims that cannot be defended is really very unhelpful to the pandemic. As scientists, we all know how we get medications into the system. You have to do a rigorous study going into different phases, and you then finally agree based on the studies that have been published whether or not it works. You compare the drug with another agent that is similar but does not have the same properties. You do not come out to make a claim based simply on your assumptions. The reason I keep on saying this, the reason why if I have a headache, I will go and buy paracetamol with absolute confidence that that paracetamol will work, is because the paracetamol has been put through a rigorous process of randomized controlled trials that has repeatedly shown that it will work regardless of whether you are black or white, old or young, regardless of your situation. And that's how trials are done. So for experimental therapies for COVID, they need to be done in the context of a clinical trial. And there are trials already going on, sponsored by WHO, looking at hydroxychloroquine, the HIV drugs, and interferon. Those trials will give us an idea fairly soon, hopefully, in terms of what is the best treatment for COVID. But certainly, I would caution the public against listening or accepting any home remedies that would protect you or stop you from getting COVID. We all know how we can stop ourselves from catching COVID, and those prevention measures are the things that we should really keep to. Thank you very much. Did you ask a question on gender-based violence? I didn't hear gender-based violence. Okay, I apologize. So, gender-based violence, yes, it's certainly unacceptable. We know in this period of lockdown, we are all with the family at home, and tempers might flare, etc. But it's certainly unacceptable. As the WHO said, in this period and time, we will be having a lot of incidences, and I hope the security agencies take this seriously. But it's something that is unacceptable, regardless of whether we are in a pandemic or not. Regardless, and I hope we'll continue to take those measures to eliminate gender-based violence in our communities. Thank you.